Welcome to Bleep Bulimia podcast with Dr. Sharnael, wonderful person, founder of Dr. Sharnael True TV, and author. Hi, everyone. I'm Lorianne. I am the host of Bleep Bulimia, and today I have Dr. Sharnael with me. I am so excited to have her here. She is a naturopathic doctor, quantum scientist, linguist, and theologian, and founder of Dr. Sharnael True TV, also author of 5 groundbreaking books. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So I know that you started off in a different path as a doctor. Can you please tell us the life-changing experience you had?
Yeah, I worked in psych units actually for a while. I worked in cardiac rehab, I worked in psych units for a while. But I actually had to make the choice to leave because it was emotionally, it was so much for me to take it home and to connecting with these patients and then seeing some of the things that were going on. And I worked in several different hospitals. At first I thought, well, it's just hospital, but over 5 different psych units. It was rough. And I was working with pediatrics, the last one. And I think that was the roughest of just going home and knowing that I couldn't do anything really more than I did, and seeing the pain and the struggle that these kids were having and all of the different drugs thrown at them, and to the point of being numb and really not having feelings about stuff. And so, yeah, I actually went into a different spinoff for a while and went into ministry, full-time ministry, and was really working with people on a spirit level and working with myself as I was doing that, because I think there is no teacher. I think we're all, constantly teaching ourselves, and found myself really, really sick physically. And that kind of led me to look into some more naturopath things, to reverse engineer what was going on with me physically. And of course, when the student is ready, the teacher arrives, and I had some really great naturopaths that showed up in my life, synchronicities. And I didn't even know there was such a thing as a naturopath. I had never learned that. I grew up, military, and, you went to the doctor, you did all the things, you took the shots, you did, you had your yearly, all the things. And so I had not been exposed to even the idea of a naturopathic doctor. And so at 37, I went back and got my doctorate. I had already had my undergraduate and my master's. And so it was an easy transition to be able to get into med school. And I say easy, I mean, I was a single mom of 3 under 7, and everyone was probably like, what are you doing going back to school right now? Like, yeah, but here I am now, and I still don't know what I'm doing. So I'm just, I think that's the problem with me, is I want to do everything. So it's like I'm constantly doing 19, different jobs, because I love people and helping people. And yeah, so that's kind of my situation.
Well, as we said, you wrote 5 books. That's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about them? I'm interested.
Yeah, my newest book is called The Science of Miracles, and it talks about how we all have this usually 4 to 5 feet biofield, or aura or electronic belt, that in Chinese medicine and the Eastern side, they consider that a part of the physical body. And all the medical books had that at one time as a part of the body. And now which is interesting. But the biofield, bio means two. It's both radiating and, it's all electronics. Everything, there's a radiation, but there's also a magnet. So there's two functions here, where there's something that goes out and something that comes in. And the information within the field has everything to do with our cells, our DNA, our thoughts, our words, our feelings is probably the biggest amount of information. And we talked a little bit about feelings before we got on the recording. The heart is the biggest magnet. So the things that we feel are what we're going to bring more to us as a gift, really, to let us know where we are, and to work out those things that are, quote, brought to us, acclimate, or to just be aware that they're there, whether it's anger or frustration, or whether it's joy or love, so what we think about, what we talk about, what we say, what we do, and then our genetic history has a radiation, as well as every organ, our blood, our bones, everything has a radiation. And then that heart is what pulls things into the field.
That's very interesting. I have, this may be totally irrelevant to it, but I have a question in that field. Um, do some of us are some of us very protective of that field and letting people in it? Because I find that I have that feeling that some people can come in and I'm fine, and some people come and stand close to me, and I move like out of the
Yeah,
way. So
absolutely. And you should, because there are people who are unsafe people. There's a man named Dr. David Hawkins who wrote a book, well, wrote several books, one on the map of consciousness. And so there is this map of truth or falsehood. And, anyone 200 and below is falsehood, and everything 200 and above is the truth, or a version of the truth, or love, or peace, or harmony. So 0 being the worst, 200 is the truth mark. And you could do kinesiology, and someone who is less than love or less than truth will score less than 200. And those people's biofield are not as big. The people who are in 500, which is love or above, some of the great teachers of the universe, like Jesus and some of those guys, they're like 1,000. Their biofield is a lot of times even unlimited. Dolphins are unlimited. Animals have huge, large fields, and they score really high on the map of consciousness. But when we get to someone who's like 100, which is addictions, or 50, manipulation, or narcissistic stuff, 25 entities, those fields are very small, if not inverted. So what you're feeling is, when you're around someone who's less than 200, they're actually siphoning off your field, because they cannot generate their own vibration or their own aura. The only way they feel alive is to take from someone else. And you can see this on a camera. Plants do it as well. There's some plants that will steal from other plants, not in a good way, to survive. And then there's some that freely give, their essence or their life force to help a plant survive. But the ones that aren't so nice, they steal, and they'll literally kill another plant just to stay alive. And like I said, there's science and cameras that can visually see this now.
that's really interesting. Wow, thanks for sharing that. So that's your new book, and of course, I would imagine people can find it on Amazon. And
Yes. Mhm.
okay,
And
uh,
drsharnael.com.
okay. And so we were talking before the the podcast started, regarding struggling with bulimia and so on. I don't know if you're here to share it, but I know that we talked about you having some issues as well with it, and then overcoming it. I really love these stories because I think that that's what my listeners need to hear. And we also talked about some of the remnants that still remain after recovery, even. So if you could share your story, I'd
Absolutely.
really appreciate it.
Yeah, I have had like such a relationship with my body and food, like as long as I can remember. I can remember my dad, who I love, absolutely love, but I had this like under like subconscious and or not like super in your face understanding that he thought I was overweight. And so he would have me up. He was military, and he would have me up at like 4 and 5 in the morning to go running in like 30-degree weather in Germany. And or I remember like he would put me on diets or things like that. And what's interesting is I remember I like lost a certain amount, and he like gave me this Mickey Mouse bubblegum machine that I wanted or something. I was rewarded for doing that kind of stuff. But what's interesting is I was also rewarded with food for things. Like I can remember that was a big thing, and there were certain foods that were, oh, if you do this, we can go get ice cream or pizza or, things like that. So it was kind of mixed signals and kind of confusing. I'm um my background or my inheritance is Viking, Scandinavian. So I have like very strong legs. And even when I was at 98 pounds, my calves have always just been bigger. And I remember like there was a time when like those boots that came up to your knee were like a big thing. And I wanted those boots so bad, and I literally could not zip them over my calf, and just remember crying and being so upset that I couldn't be like other people. But it really probably hit the nail on the head in my high school years. I think that's whenever I was really just I was on the dance team, and they would weigh us, and if we weren't a certain weight, we couldn't dance that week at the games. And um, that was a choice for me to even do that. But yeah, so there was just so much attention and focus on weight, and I started getting really obsessive about it, to the point of like after school I would start exercising, and I had this, major routine of like however many hours on a bicycle, and then I would do weights, and then I would do cardio, and teach aerobics and doing aerobics, and as a personal trainer. And so I would incorporate like side jobs to exercise so I could get paid and exercise at the same time. And when I went to college, I had it in my mind like, well, when I go to college, I'm going to lose all this weight. So when I get there, no one will ever know the fat me. And you got to understand the fat me was 130 pounds. Like, it's not like I was fat. Um, but in my mind, I was like super over, like just ridiculously fat in my mind, and wasn't able to see that. And they call that, all kinds of things now. But so yeah, when I got to college, I just kind of carried on because my schedule, I could make my own schedule. I was definitely working in 2 or 3 gyms and doing all kinds of stuff to not eat, to eat, and then started throwing up, binging, and then I would puke and binge and puke because I would just, if I screwed up, I would feel so terrible. That's probably when the bulimia started. It was like when school got to be so much that I couldn't exercise that much. um then it was like, oh, well, I didn't exercise as much, so I can't eat this. And if I do eat this, I got to throw it up. And it started getting really weird as far as like me not wanting to go pretty much anywhere because I was so afraid if food would be there. Because I mean, think about it socially, everything has food. Like if it's a party or a get together or whatever, there's going to be food, there's going to be a reason to eat. And I wouldn't want to slip, so I started really kind of almost hermiting a little bit and pulling back of being like, oh, and then it got to be where even if I ate something good for me, like only an apple all day long, that's it, just an apple, I would still throw up the apple. Like it was just so out of hand. I mean, ridiculous out of hand. But yeah, and then I started working in psych units with eating disorders to pick up tips and figure out like how to so I could get better at what I was doing. And I found there was a friend of mine that was in college that was also anorexic. And so I was like, well, maybe not eating would be better because then I don't have to throw up. So I just stopped eating. Um, and yeah, I got down to like 90 pounds, would pass out all the time. I remember I was working as a in in the mall at a shop, and I loved my boss. I mean, I just loved this job, and I loved the people there. And one morning I got up God, I don't think I've told anybody this, but like a couple people, but I got up too fast and I got really, really dizzy. And then I went into a full on seizure. And I remember being in a seizure on the ground. And I remember I was just about to brush my teeth. So I still had like my toothpaste in my hand and my toothbrush. And I remember hitting the ground so hard and hitting my head and just like, frailing on the ground, like beating myself against the ground because I couldn't control the seizure. And I don't know how I got out of it, but when I did, I had a concussion and bruises just all over my body. And I was still holding the toothpaste and the toothbrush. And I had to call work because I was late. And when I finally went in, my boss literally pulled me to the back and was like, "Hey, we know that you're not late because of this." She didn't know the details, but I had called in sick so many times because of being sick and passing out that they were like, "You have a problem. You need to get help. Like, we know this is not cool and not, I mean, lovingly."
Yeah,
But I got fired. And I think that was like a little bit of the beginning of makeup.
yeah. Wake up call. So from there, how did you move forward to recovering?
What's really interesting is I read this book by Oz, I guess his name is Osmondino or Osmondigo, something like that. And
Yeah.
it was a book about the miracle of life
Yeah.
and all of the things that come against the actual process of getting pregnant in the first place to be here, and all the obstacles and all of the sperm and the egg and the ones that die off, and then even making it all the way through pregnancy. I don't There was something about this book. I mean, I just remember crying and being like, wow, like I'm supposed to be here. And if I'm here, I might as well like do something. And I kind of put it together that for me anyway, there were two things involved in the eating disorder thing. Number one, it was something I could control. When things were out of control, this was something that I could control, even though I was lying to people and like getting up in the middle of a table and go throw up and then come back and be like, "Hey, I'm cool." And oh yeah, I ate today. I already ate, so I'm not going to eat dinner because I ate already, and all the things that you do to constantly lie. Um, but it was my form of being able to control what I could control because everything was so out of control. And then the other thing was it's a slow form of suicide.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I think, a lot of people will do it in different ways, quickly, maybe. But that and smoking, I was smoking a lot to my appetite. Both of those things are a slow form of of death. And what what came to me was I guess I didn't want to be here. And when I read that book, I realized, well, God wouldn't put me here for no reason. I must have a reason to be here. And it just gave me this whole different perspective about, like, yeah, I should be here. And it just kind of shifted things.
He's a great author. I think it's Ogmendigo. Mendigo. Yeah, I've read actually a few of his books. He's just it's phenomenal, like his perspective on life and that he's just wonderful. Um, so from there, we were talking about that there are still certain things that remain after. So I was bulimic for 30 years, as a lot of my listeners know, 14 years recovered. It'll be 15 next year. And I'm so excited. Like, I'm looking forward to the 1-5. um,
Yeah.
but, but we were saying that, like, you were explaining to me that there's still certain things that can trigger. With me, I was explaining that I was doing typing for my sister, couldn't stand it, hated it, and I got the feelings. But the awareness of literally wanting to go and just eat while I'm doing something I hate, right? And then knowing I could throw it up, I stopped myself knowing that this was a trigger and I quit. It's helpful. Yeah, you're right. As long as you're aware of it, it's good, but they're still there. Um, I don't, that happened about 5 years ago, and I think that that was an eye opener for me as well. So now I just know if I'm really getting into something that I really don't like, um,
Yeah.
that could trigger, I just don't do it. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I had some triggers too, because up until pretty much 30 years old, I wasn't going to have kids. I, I, when I was a little, I wanted kids, but when I got into the eating disorder, I just couldn't, imagine getting fat. Like that was just, oh my gosh. And I do remember like there had to be some part of me that wanted to have kids, but I didn't want to go through the process of getting fat, which isn't fat at all. It's just having a child within your body, which isn't fat at all. But when my mom and dad took me to counseling, because I did attempt suicide with pills 2 or 3 times in the middle of all this as well. And um, I don't know what happened. There's just the grace of God. I woke up 3 days later, super sick and throwing up each time, but I wasn't successful, thank God. And so we went to see someone, and the lady had asked me, well, why don't you just do something even more, bigger to get it over with or whatever, and not being mean, but just really wanting to know. And I was like, well, my response to her at the time was, well, I want to have a baby. And I didn't remember that at all. My mom just reminded me of that literally like 2 weeks ago. I don't remember why it came up, but probably because my kids are teenagers now and older, and they're being like ridiculous. And there's another level of triggering there. But I do remember when I got pregnant, I was so uh, just absolutely fearful, because I was like, oh my God, it was a big trigger, because I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna eat crazy, or I'm gonna, have an excuse to eat, but when I was about 4 or 5 months and I felt her for the first time, that was another overcoming moment for me, like in a big, huge way. I was literally like, wow, there is a human in me that I love, that I'm responsible for. And part of the other part of not just like getting fat was like I was in a pretty high paying job, and I had this kind of mindset like, my career, and, I got to do all these things. And I wasn't going to be one of those stay-at-home ladies that like gave up her career for like a kid and, all of this stuff. But literally the minute she moved within me, I was like, no one's keeping this kid while I work all day. Like, what the heck? Like, this is my kid. I'm responsible for this kid. God gave me this kid. And why would I give it up for 8 hours every day and not I get to experience that? I don't, isn't it amazing how like things can just turn on a dime in perspective for some reason? But I, in so many ways, she, she saved me from the abuse to myself, and just needing something, having something that I needed to take care of, which was in me, which meaning I had to take care of myself too. And that helped me, to get over another level of just understanding about love and loving me. And then, of course, when she was born, it was just like you're looking at this thing and you're like, she's looking up at you, and you're like, oh my God, I didn't know I could love something so much. And like, imagine how much God loves me if I love this thing this much, and, those kind of epiphanies that just can get bigger and bigger and bigger.
I totally get it. I am actually tearing up, sorry.
I know,
Um,
I am
it's
too.
like my funny enough, I didn't. I had 3 children as well. And during my pregnancies, no bulimia, because I had something that I had to take care of. And then I didn't actually have then after my first one, which I didn't know I was going to have, they told me I couldn't have children, that I had sleepy ovaries and that Lazar, but then I got pregnant and I was only 26. So it was kind of freaky for me because I wasn't ready yet. Um, but then I did start my bulimia again. And then I got pregnant at 31 and stopped again. And I actually did stop until I had my third one. And then after my third one, I went back to it. So it was really on and off a bit. But while the pregnancies, like, yeah, it was so, and I thought when I was, looking at my recovery, why could I interrupt? Love something I carried so much, hold it, and not love myself that much.
I know,
And that
right?
that was an epiphany. And it was like,
Mm.
wow, like you took care of yourself because you had a living thing. You are alive. You should be taking care of
Right.
yourself too. So it was, and of course looking at, what happened, what would happen if I died when they were still young? Like that was always a thing in
Me
me. And yet I'm
too.
going, and
I was
yet, so why are you bulimic? Well, like it was all stupid. My previous podcast, she was talking about this, like how bulimia is a two-minded thing. One saying, I want to quit, and the other one going,
oh
I've got
my
all these
gosh.
things that
I was gonna ask you, I was
it's
gonna
like
ask you
a
about that.
struggle,
Y-
a real struggle, the yin and the yang type of thing, but fighting not together nicely. So
Yeah, I was actually gonna ask you that before we got on, and maybe this didn't happen for you, but it wasn't schizophrenia. It was like my own internal thoughts,
yeah,
I guess. But I would have like even going to throw up, I would hear this me say, okay, just throw up 10 times. And so I would throw up, like I would do the three gags or whatever, or the 10 gags, and then I would hear, okay, one more. And then I
yeah.
would do it again. And then it'd be like, okay, just two more. And then I would do it again. And then this is all in one session. I'm not talking about over a day. But the voices of like you suck and you're fat and not being able to look in the mirror, that is terrible. I mean, that is just, I don't know what that is, but did you hear the voices too?
I did a little bit different. I didn't really have the fat thing. I worked out and stuff, and and like you, and I made sure that I had muscle tone. I don't anymore. I don't really care. I'm in a whole different world now. I mean, I've managed. It was weird because one of the things I was afraid of quitting bulimia was gaining weight. And but I learned to have a really good relationship with food and eat slowly, and I eat whatever I want, but I tend to side towards healthier things anyway. Like I can eat pizza, but I don't like it. So and uh and I stopped eating peanut butter, but I'm back to eating peanut butter because I love it. And so just weird. Good relationship with food, eat slowly. I've not gained. I've stayed steady at my 130. I don't care to be 120, 113 like I'd gone down to before. It's like my weight is happy here and it's just what it is. It's like it's so pleasant to feel this way. And know when I'm full and stop when I'm full. Like I don't finish. So I was brought up in that finish everything on your plate.
Oh my God,
Yes,
me too.
you're
Like I
right.
remember literally like sleeping at the table multiple
I,
times.
me too. And then I'd
Literally,
wake up, still have to finish it.
I would wake up and it would be time to go to school because I didn't
Oh,
finish the spaghetti and the roll on my plate because I just wasn't hungry. And I don't know if I was just that stubborn or if my dad was, but literally we had that rule too. It's like whatever they
yeah.
did up, you had to eat every single thing. And oh my God, I would hide the peas and the mashed potatoes and I would just, I couldn't stand, whatever. But yeah, I was pretty stubborn to just say, okay, well, I'll sleep here and just go to bed
Wow.
at the table.
Yeah, so that was an interesting thing. It took a while before, you could sit there and look at the food and go, I'm not hungry anymore. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to throw it out. It's like, sorry, I can't feed an African child like my parents used to say, or the poor starving children. Can't feed them with my leftovers. So like, you know, it,
The
that
happy
choice
place.
was right. So it was, yeah, really interesting. Funny bringing up those things. But yeah, the biggest thing I think when I quit, and it was overnight for me, was realizing I had no reason anymore. I mean, I was divorced. I had no tie to that anymore. I lived with my sister at the time, but I knew I was going to be moving out. But it was like, why are you doing this? Like your kids are not with you and because they had all moved out with their dads. So like I still saw them, but they weren't, and they were older. Yeah, there was no reason. And my sister was beautiful. I've told this story before, but she came in, she goes, I know you're still throwing up, but I just want you to know I love you and I'm here for you. And that's when it made me think, that night made me think, like, why are you doing this? This is ridiculous. And woke up the next day and didn't want it
Just
anymore.
stopped.
Just stopped.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Cold
But
turkey.
it took 6 months to really reset myself and, like I said, build that relationship with food, put it on a plate, get to know that this is, what you want to eat. Don't go for seconds because that'll trigger. So I knew my triggers and I became very, very aware of them. And that's how I was very lucky that that happened. But like I said to you, that one time working with my sister doing her typing, that I could feel that old Lorianne there wanting to just
Mhm.
eat while I'm doing something I hate. And
Yeah,
then,
I think
yeah,
my triggers are back to the whole like other people not liking me because I don't like me, or I don't like me because other people don't like me, or whatever, which comes first, the chicken or the egg, because it's all the biofield. So the more we don't like ourselves, the more we attract people who won't like us. And so when I got the whole concept of the field and how it works, I just started like writing decrees all over my house and mantras, I am love and I stay. And when I mean I am love and I stay, the I stay part meaning I stay in love. Like I'm not venture out, because I can literally take a thought over here or over here within seconds, have a different thought and go have this 2 step forward, 1 step back kind of energetic purgatory where I'm like, what is it? But, or I can be, I am love. I am permanent love. I'm radical permanent love. And I stay, I'm not just loving and I'm not loving other people. I mean, those things are true also, but I am love and I stay, and just doing radical self-care, radical acceptance of myself, even though I screw up and don't do the right thing all the time, and just being super forgiving. And but yeah, like even in the last few weeks, there's been a couple things that I've been like, screw it, I'm gonna go get ice cream or whatever, and then dealing with all of the, okay, not the thought of like throwing up. That, thank God, has not been anywhere in my realm since before the anorexia thing, but just the shame of that I just ice cream, or, oh, why did you do that? You're a screw up, you're this, you're that, or like binging, because it's like, I don't know, just you talked about that too, of just, hey, I don't know. I have to like figure out where that is or why that is. But being on top of that and like thinking things, slowing down and asking myself questions, and is this loving to basically, destroy my body in a half an hour of eating a bunch of crap for no reason? I mean, not no reason, but for what reason? Like, what's the reason? And can you do something else to replace it? Like maybe go do ozone, or go for a walk, or go sit outside in the sun in the grass and get grounded, or put on some essential oils, or go get a massage, or, just replacing things help me a lot of like, I'm going to do things that are loving to myself because I am love and I stay, instead of rewarding myself or trashing my body because I'm mad or upset or because I can't control something, you know?
it's interesting because we talked about, like we were talking about, like the anger, like that. anger, frustration, or emotions are so connected. It's so weird that we connect them so much with food. And then exactly that to ourself, oh, I eat too much, or and the shame that's it's something that takes time to get over because it's so ingrained in your head, like from all those years and all the diets and all the people. I think it's really cool because I know that people out there, they talk bad about other people, and then I know that I can't imagine what they say about me, kind of thing. And at one time, that really bothered me. I'd be thinking, what are they saying about me? What are they saying about me? Because, if someone talks like that, usually they talk about everyone like that. And I'm at the point now where I couldn't care less. I don't care. I mean, it's not even worth being in my life. Like you said, this is me. This is my life. I have my dogs. I have my little cats, and I am very happy. Love where I work. I'm very blessed. I live with my mom. I have for the last few years since just before Dad passed, and it's been really a blessing. And sometimes you think, why are things going so well?
What's happening?
Right. Anytime I start to think that, because that is one of those things that you thought of in the past, like, oh, things are going too well, they got to go wrong. And sure, you manifest the wrong because that's how you're thinking. Um,
Yeah, I
no,
talk
I
about that in the
deserve
book.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I
came up
just,
on that program as well.
well,
Sorry,
so
go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, like, I changed my mindset and say, I deserve this. This is my time now. I deserve it. And it's gonna be great. I know my mom's 90. I'm gonna have to go through something probably unless I go before her because I never know, knock on wood, but it's gonna be something I have to deal with. While things are good, I am just taking it all in. That's that's
Yeah.
what I'm doing. Yeah. So, but I love that. You have four other books. Did you want to quickly speak to those as well?
I have a book called The Seer's Handbook, which it just talks about intuition and seeing things and what they mean, feeling things and what they mean, like symbolically. I have a book called Keys to Third Heaven, using Third Heaven revelation to impact the world, and just again talks about intuition and connecting to following those hunches and how to use what you get to help people. I have a book called Spiritual Reflections of a Montana Girl in a Louisiana state, because I'm actually from Montana, but I'm in Louisiana. And it just talks about signs and synchronicities and how to tap more into that. And then I actually have a book on ketogenics because I got sick. I ended up having cancer in the past in 2016 and went on a ketogenic diet and did a lot of other things as well, self-care as far as hyperbaric chamber, ozone IVs, cryotherapy, raindrop therapy, like a whole list of things naturopathically to reverse that, and which involved a heck of a lot of self-care to choose to stay and to love myself and to be here. Um, but yeah, so I help a lot of people in that arena, people who end up with those diagnoses, as well as just working with people who are trying to change patterns of any kind, whether it's addictions or bad marriages or picking bad partners and having those patterns. I also had the same thing that you were talking about. I call it a program of like the Murphy's Law thing, where like if something's good, something bad's going to happen, cancel, clear. And I knew I had to replace it. And so I was looking for something because in my mind, when something happened, I would ruminate and go OCD, and then that would just create more in my field, which caused a magnet for more things to happen. And I had this like really stupid process of, creating more. And I would even call people who I knew would agree with me, like people who are family members or whatever. And I would say, oh my God, this happened now. And they'd be like, oh, there's always something, cancel clear. They didn't mean there's always something really great around the corner. They meant like, of course, that would be the normal thing. A bad thing would happen, cancel. So I looked for something to replace it. So that would be in my field as a radiation. And I kind of like inquired and was like, hey, okay, what would be a good one? And something popped up on my Facebook, like a commercial with Dr. Phil of all people. And Dr. Phil was like, he had this little meme or whatever, and it was just a quick little thing. And he was like, the best way to predict the future is to look at your past. And I was like, oh, there you go. There's a good one. And then I thought about it really, and I was like, wait, what if your past sucked?
Right?
Then you're gonna get more of it, so like, no, not that one. And so I kept on this like quest of like finding the perfect mantra that I could put all over the house. And within an hour, another meme pops up, and it was actually President Abraham Lincoln with this meme, and it said the best way to predict the future is to create it. And I was like, oh, yeah, I can, the more I love me, the more that radiation goes out, and the more people will love me back, because they can only respond to my energy, my code. Everything is numbers. And so when we have positive numbers going out, we get positive transactions, and everything is transactional, whether we think it is or not. That's just the way the quantum physics works. And so the book talks a lot about how to change those patterns from the inside out, because everything is an inside job. And we have or I had a tendency, I'll speak for me, I had a tendency to think, it's about them. They did this, or why does this keep happening? When really we are the one that creates everything. And we can be switching it up just as fast on a dime and create something brand new and beautiful. So I work one-on-one with people. I do biofeedback so we can kind of see what's in the field. So we know what's going on in here, and then we can change it from the inside out. And whether it's emotional or physical, those things are reversible, and we can have a perfect, beautiful, loving life. So it's fun and easy when we choose for it to be fun and easy. But when we
Yes,
don't choose for it to be fun and easy, it's hard and rough and disgusting and terrible and sad. And it's all about perspective.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's wonderful. I'm so glad that we had this chat. It was really wonderful. And Dr. Sharnael, if you can please, I know we spoke to your book before, but if you can please reiterate where people can find you, where to find your book, and everything.
Yeah, drsharnael.com is my website, and I have my biofeedback there. You could do personal consults. I have lots of workshops. If you can't make it to my in-person workshops, I do a lot of teaching and have some of it on workshops that you guys can do right from your house. The biofeedback is actually right from your home as well. It can be long distance. I do have a practice here in Louisiana. If you're ever in the area, I know you're far away in Canada, but maybe someone's listening. And I do events and teach all over. I just came back I was in New York twice in the last little bit, in Miami, and I was in LA or Los Angeles a couple weeks ago, and actually was in Canada, right across over there, Niagara Falls for a minute.
Okay.
And yeah, so maybe I'll see some of you guys. And I also have a podcast every Thursday at noon where we talk about fun subjects, and I have different authors and directors and celebrities and speakers, and we talk about deep things and fun things and weird things. And yeah, that's Dr. Sharnael True TV. And yeah, I would love to connect with you. And I just want to say how much I appreciate you and your service and your contribution to this beautiful world. And thank you for making it better. And I'm gonna cry. Thank you for making my life better today and helping me like talk about some things that I haven't talked about personally too much. And just you really helped me today, like more than you can ever know.
Thank you. And you have me tearing up too. So again, thank you for being here and for being you and for sharing today. Really appreciate it.
Bless you.
Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to visit me at bleepbulimia.com.